Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back to another UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt, and this is going to be a little bit different podcast. Obviously, everybody knows what's going on. I put down in the description of this podcast all the things that have happened since the last time we podcast. The last podcast, I had Blake on from Keeping It Heel, and we had just beaten Virginia Tech, and we looked like an awesome basketball team, looked like a totally different team. And we're talking about, can we win 5 games in 5 days and all that stuff. And then the next day we go out and lay a huge egg against Syracuse, which turns out doesn't even matter because that is one of the last, not only college basketball games played, but one of the last basketball games played of the season, of the year, who knows for how long. Conference tournaments are canceled. The NBA shuts down their season, and eventually March Madness is pretty much, the month of March is pretty much just canceled because now we're all sitting in our homes, shut in from this coronavirus. We're all on house arrest so that we don't get sick from some virus, which is just crazy. And believe me, I have felt the effects, being at home with 4 young kids, trying to keep them busy, getting energy out. We haven't done a whole lot of homeschooling yet. My oldest is in 1st grade, so it's not like there's a whole bunch of math or something she's going to miss out on. So we've been trying to do a few educational things here and there, but more like you guys, probably just trying to keep our sanity. So I'm actually recording this live on YouTube, and also we're going live on Instagram, which is something new here. And like I said, this is probably kind of like a wrap up, I guess, of the season. College basketball wise and Tar Heel basketball wise, and from here we'll kind of be talking about next year. And Blake has expressed interest coming on. He wrote an article about who the starting 5 next year could be, so we may get on and talk about that, and would love to hear your guys' feedback. If you are watching this live on YouTube or Instagram, leave questions, comments, anything like that, and we'll come back at the end of the podcast and we'll get to those if there are any. But other than that, we're just gonna kind of go through the end of the season here. I thought about doing the end of the year predictions, where we go back through the predictions we made preseason and see how we all did. But I looked through them, and I mean, nobody predicted us to have a losing season. Nobody predicted, nobody's even close. There's no reason to reading through those and making us feel worse, including me. So yeah, Tar Heel finished off the season 14-19 on the season. First losing season, I believe, since the 8-20 season. And a little pause here because Gil actually just said he could come on the podcast here. So I may, in live here, try to get him, if I can remember how here. Get him up on the podcast here, and we'll talk through it a little bit together. So if you guys will bear with me, but losing season for the Tar Heels, first one I believe since 8-20. I was about to go check what our 2010 one was because we went to the NIT, but I think to get NIT you have to be at least 50%. So we should have been still over 500. And give me a second here and I'll go check, because I think I can do that fairly quickly here. 2009, 2010. Oh, man, great podcasting here, right? So we were 21-17. And I don't know how many games. We went to the championship. I think we lost the championship, I believe, that April 1st. We lost actually to Dayton. Throwback here, we beat Rhode Island in overtime. On March 30th, April 1st, we lost to Dayton. So we beat UAB on that run. We beat Mississippi State. Let's see, William and Mary, I think that would have been the game last time we played in Carmichael before this season. We played William and Mary March 16th. I believe that was the first round of the NIT. So NIT was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 4 wins and a loss. So we were over 500 this. So this is our first losing season since the 8-20 season. And I don't know how many of you remember, I was in high school. I think we talked about this, but I was in high school for the 8-20 season, and really just brutal. Again, I didn't grow up in North Carolina, so there wasn't Duke fans or State fans kind of getting at me. But so if you're watching on YouTube here, we have, in the process of the podcast, live podcasting here, brought Gil into the podcast. So Gil, how's it going first?
Hey man, how's it going, Dan?
I'm about as, like I said already to these guys, I'm about as good as I can be, given that we're stuck in the house and I got 4 youngsters running around just creating chaos. So are you surviving the Corona shut-in?
Yes, surviving, thankfully. Doing well health-wise. Seems to be fine at the moment. Trying to stay socially connected but physically distant as best as possible. So thanks for inviting me on to the pod today. Yep.
So how's your neck of the woods going as far as this virus going? Is there active cases that you know about in your community?
I have heard of some. I wouldn't say that I buried my head in the sand completely, but that I've heard of some at our local hospital, and so that there are active cases in Virginia Beach and in the Norfolk area. So definitely time to be cautious. I'm not sure if you saw on ESPN this morning the Instagram video from Karl Anthony Towns from the NBA, Minnesota Timberwolves. He's pretty poignant. His mother is in a medically induced coma as a result of coronavirus. And so he's like, take the situation seriously. So I hope everybody out there is staying safe.
Yeah. If people have been listening to the podcast, they know my wife is a doctor, and she's still she delivers babies, so she's got to keep going to the hospital and stuff. And we've had 1 confirmed case at our hospital, and there's a few other tests out there, which, we'll see what they come back. But I know we're kind of like, she hasn't been exposed directly to those patients, but it's a possibility that she can get exposed, and then she comes home and we're all going to be exposed. But it's crazy times, and it's definitely something we have to take serious, or it's going to keep going on. That's the thing. We don't know how long it's going to last, and it's not going to end unless we kind of do what we're supposed to do here to try to help it flatten the curve, I guess is the
absolutely
phrasing. So
it's pretty nerve-wracking. All right, what were you talking about here?
All right, so I was trying to put a little, as nice as we could, a bow on the season for the Tar Heels. I'd gone through I'd started to go through our record. We were 14-19 overall, 6-14 in the conference. And I said that, it's our first losing season since the 8-20 season, which I was in high school for, and it was pretty brutal stretch to go because everybody was saying it was kind of the end of the reign. We had Dean Smith retire. Guthridge comes in for a few seasons, looked good, but then Matt Doherty comes in. We have his first season looked great. He was coach of the year and everything, but then the 8-20 season, and okay, this is the end of it. Where were you in the 8-20 as we look back on it?
Oh man, I tried to black that out. Majority of the Doherty years. Yeah, I remember him coming in, and the first season it seemed like okay, we missed out on Roy, but we're fine. And then it escalated downhill rapidly, it seemed like. But obviously the program's rebounded, and the losing season that we had this past season, hopefully that makes us all appreciate more the great seasons that we've had. I think we're going to rebound quickly with the incoming class, assuming that, yes, Corona does not postpone things. We really don't know, how far reaching this is going to push things back. But I'm excited about next year's team. And, I'm trying to appreciate, and I'm watching or listening rather to a lot of, the other Carolina basketball podcasts over this past week, talking about, the season in general, I guess. And I appreciated how hard the guys played. It wasn't the season that we were all hoping for. Injuries played a huge factor, and it would have been nice. Personally, I really, really would have loved for us to continue that streak against Clemson, and pull out that win against Duke at home. And then I really wouldn't complain with our record and, everything if those two things had been able to transpire personally. That would have been nice to have beaten Duke, kept that streak against Clemson, and just say, hey, man, we had a ton of injuries, but, look at what we were still able to accomplish. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I think we've rehashed on the podcast. Both of us, we haven't done a pod together, but as the season went through, we kind of both talked about obviously the injuries and the close games, and I think we both expressed how easy it would be for this team could have given up, and it could have snowballed really bad. I mean, obviously we didn't have a successful season as far as North Carolina basketball goes, but it could have been so much worse. People still had hope going into the ACC tournament. Like,
that's absolutely right. They got our hopes up a little bit, and then that was a nice win against Virginia Tech there in Greensboro. And then I have no idea if any information about the NBA shutdown or everything that transpired in that particular evening. That was a very eerie, interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those nights that we remember.
Yeah,
like, it's kind of like what I can remember. The chase of OJ on the highway. Like, you just kind of remember these scenes on TV, and like, yeah, for us it was happening real time. Like during the game, you get the scroller at the bottom. The NBA has shut down their season.
Rudy Gobert tested positive, and then there was the images of Fred Hoiberg on the sideline. Looking ill, and the assumption was he had coronavirus, even though it turned out just to be influenza or whatever. But yeah, that was just crazy, and you just don't know how much the players or the staff or any of them knew about any of that as that was transpiring in real time. But they just didn't have it against Syracuse in that game, and in a way, I don't know what's better or worse, that they lost that game and Carolina's season was officially over. I was playing a round of disc golf with a friend of mine who's a UVA grad, and I was asking him how he felt about the fact that March Madness and the NCAA tournament was canceled this year, and he said, "You guys are the real winners." Because your season was over and you don't have to worry about it. So I don't know what's better. It would have been nice to be like, oh, we still had a chance.
Right.
But then would that have been bad? Because we're like, man, we were just coming together. We could have totally made a run or something, So we all know we weren't making any run. We were done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that game it kind of gave us closure on, we knew that it wasn't, it doesn't leave that false hope out there, because even if we had beaten Syracuse, like the tough games were still coming, Louisville and Florida State, Duke, whoever it would have been, like, those would be hard to win in a row. So.
Especially after playing, would have been our third game in 3 straight days. That tournament is just not set up for a team to make a 5-game and 5-day run. And I would love for it to be reevaluated. I don't know if
I don't know how you do it, but it used to be, NC State did it several times with Valvano there. They were one of the bottom seeds, made the run, made the tournament, made a run in the tournament. And obviously UConn with Kemba is the late famous one where they, a 9 seed, 5 days or 5 games in 5 days to win the Big East. And then obviously the tournament. But yeah, it's so hard now. And it does take a little of that luster out of, when you watch even the mid majors now, like, it's win or go home, and there's so much intensity in the game, and it feels like March Madness, and we've definitely taken that out of the ACC tournament for sure.
Personally, I would be in favor of the ACC tournament switching back to having the finals on Sunday afternoon. I mean, that's just the way I grew up, and something about watching the finals. Hopefully, Carolina's in it, and then knowing that the selection show was coming a couple hours later. I know that there's all this talk in the media about prime time on Saturday night. But you can still have the semifinals, which is even better. You got 2 great ACC matchups on a Saturday night with the semifinals, and then have that final on Sunday afternoon. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but
well, I mean, not to agree with Coach Cal ever, but the SEC still does it that way, and he has said every year after year, like, the final just doesn't matter, and as long as you're on the bubble, it doesn't matter. You're in the tournament, but his argument is the seeding. Then if they win, doesn't necessarily bump them up a seed, or if a team loses in the final, he feels like the tournament, it's already set in the committee's eyes, and all they're doing is kind of waiting for the formality of it to be finished. Obviously, if a bubble team wins it, or if a team that wouldn't be in the tournament, they'd have to reevaluate. But
that's true.
He feels that it takes out. So it all comes back to money and what works for TV and stuff like that. So
it's just hard to get used to the ACC tournament starting on a Tuesday night, which is not something that we hope we will ever have to see again from Tar Heel Nation. But my wife and I almost made the trip down to Greensboro to go to that, and thankfully we didn't. It was just a little too much, and then with everything going on, it was too much. But
Yeah, well, I mean, I briefly thought about it because people were showing the ticket prices at like
Yeah,
$7-8, and it's general
exactly.
admission. You can sit anywhere. I was like, oh, I need to just drive up there, but
Yeah, that's what
it
we were
wasn't
thinking.
very realistic for me.
Yep, for sure. Well, I saw on Twitter/Instagram today that Cole Anthony has deferred making any announcement.
He announced he wasn't announcing.
The announcement was not happening, correct. Although none of us are anticipating that he's returning. So there's that. Super stoked that Garrison Brooks appears like he's going to be returning, and that's something that we can build around. Obviously, the interior, Armando Bacot also expected to return. That's going to be great to build around. Plus, we got Day'Ron Sharpe and Walker Kessler coming in. So front court is loaded. And then the backcourt is going to be tantalizing as well, with RJ Davis and Caleb Love coming in. Hopefully Anthony Harris returns to full health with both knees, and Jeremiah Francis as well. And then, of course, circling back to that front court, Sterling Manley, again, just such a big question mark. But if we have even 90% health next season, or even better yet, everybody healthy, I see us returning back to more of an accustomed year in Tar Heel Nation. And, I saw on the ESPN way too early preseason 25, they got us 11th, I believe, expecting us, as well to stay healthy and things to return back to more of normalcy in Carolina world.
Yeah, and just to refresh people's memories, because we've been thinking about coronavirus and not sports, but we anticipate Cole Anthony, as you said, and then the 2 grad transfers, Pierce and Keeling, and then obviously, some of the walk-ons, Shea Rush is done. I believe there was another, was it Caleb
Ellis, maybe?
Yeah, but I was thinking, so I feel like there's another, but as far as guys that got minutes this year, of
course.
Yeah, Brandon Robinson, yes, thank you.
What an interesting senior year for him, and all those guys really. But with Brandon Robinson having that car accident, and the resulting injury after the Clemson loss, just an up and down season for him in terms of staying healthy. But he had a really great attitude through it all. I was really proud. I think that's what we as Tar Heel fans really love to see, is when our players, assemble and really show that they're just intelligent and upright citizens, and with good attitudes, and on and off the court, how they show up. So that was good to see from him.
Yeah, and so I think you mentioned most of the guys coming in. In the front court, we got Sharpe and Kessler, which, yeah, like you said, our front court should, as it always is with Roy, or usually is, minus a few years, but is the strong point. And with the year Garrison has, people are coming saying like he's going to be first year all American maybe. I just don't know that he's going to put up the same numbers just because he doesn't have to. This year he was everything, and so his numbers may not look as good.
Like you said, to see a dip perhaps statistically, because we're not reliant on him. We're going to have be able to spread it around so much more.
Right. But we know what we can kind of expect from him now, and if he can even improve from there, obviously that's where we start. And then in the backcourt, we got you said RJ Davis, we got Caleb Love, and then Puff Johnson as well. With I believe, do we still have one? I think we still have one scholarship we can go, right? Because we're still going after Zaire Williams.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
With the unlikely possibility of getting him. And then also I saw, I think it was mostly Instagram, but Twitter as well, that we've at least reached out to a transfer from Santa Clara, which I don't think would be a grad transfer. So he would have to sit out a year, but I'm assuming if nobody else takes that scholarship, pretty much Zaire, if he doesn't take it, and we get this guy, I don't remember his name, but he would get the scholarship in his sit out year, but then would be available the next year. So
nice.
Yeah. And as strong as our front court is, I think our back court is the question mark. We expect a lot out of Caleb Love being, 5-star, one of the top guys in his class, and even RJ, and then the guys we got coming back. We expect, like you said, to kind of be back where North Carolina expects to be, but that is our question mark.
Yeah, I would agree. Next year. Hopefully it'll be a bright spot that ends up being a strength. And I would say also, kind of circling back to Garrison Brooks, but also just the team in general, even these recruits coming in, that they're all going to be really motivated to not have the same type of season that we did this past season. I think.
Yeah, I'm sure seeing the season Cole has, they don't want to do that. Now, I would caveat that with all this coronavirus stuff going on, we don't know when schools are going to go back, when kids are going to be able to go back to campus. They may not get that summer school, the pickup ball.
That's true.
All that stuff,
But that's not affecting Carolina alone. It's affecting everybody. So everybody's dealing with that.
Right, but freshmen come in, I think it can affect more than
the
other guys.
That's definitely true. So that'll be interesting to see how it affects the landscape. And another thing, though, that could be a positive from that, I agree that them getting to come to summer school and start to be part of the program and get to meet the coaching staff and get to meet the strength and conditioning and get to work is definitely, unfortunate that they might not get that. But on the other side is just how many games, and maybe this might affect some of the next couple classes like 2022 and so on, is just so many games that these high school players are playing that maybe it's better for them not to play quite as many games as they normally play. I mean, you think about the era of Jordan and Worthy and those players, and they weren't playing AAU all summer long and all that kind of stuff. So I read someone who wrote an article saying that maybe they're playing too many games and that actually somehow in a way stumps their development.
Yeah, for the guys, I think, the top guys that can kind of pick and choose where they go, that may be a benefit. Obviously, there's the guys in the middle that may lose out on a bigger school giving them a scholarship because the coach doesn't see them. It's all uncharted, and obviously we don't have the answers for all this recruiting stuff. But Roy's thrown out a couple of scholarships to some 2021 guys this last week, so he's not sitting at his home locked up doing nothing. He's watching tape.
Eating him up though that he's not able to travel and visit these guys and see more games. I'm sure this is probably tough for him. Wanda's probably ready for him to get out of the house too.
That's what I was going to say. Probably tougher on Wanda because he's probably just going crazy. But yeah, for sure. So I don't know what else we need to wrap up as far as this season goes. We'll try not to forget it, but put it in the back of our minds enough to where we get over it. Like you said, hopefully this makes us grateful for the seasons that we've had. If we do bounce back the way we expect next year, that we can enjoy it that much more knowing what we went through this past season. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to say about this last season?
It's not really, credit to all the guys for, like you said, staying together, not giving up and that. So, I appreciate Christian Keeling. I appreciate Justin Pierce and Brandon Robinson greatly, plus the other guys from Blue Steel. So we'll miss all of them. Of course, they're always part of the family. That jersey never really comes off. I'm going to say I'm grateful for YouTube for allowing me to watch past games and championships. I watched the 93 championship game, which was the one that was really near and dear to me because I was in that age of just I was alive when 82 happened, but not conscious of really what was happening. So 93 was the first time I got to see them win the national championship. And it's unfortunate in a lot of ways that game is remembered, because of Chris Webber calling the timeout. But Carolina had to step up and play an excellent game there to win that one. So I watched that one in the middle of the season when things weren't going so well. My wife and I watched the 2017 game, which was not the prettiest game, but nonetheless the result we wanted. The last 2 minutes are worth watching, and 2009 game. So I still have the 2005 one to look forward to, and I'm going to sprinkle in some other games that aren't just championship games and enjoy those. So I'm grateful for the ability, the technology to go back and live some of the better moments in Carolina history. But as far as this past season goes, we'll put it in the rearview mirror. Credit to all those guys for continuing to fight hard and looking forward to the season ahead.
Yeah, when you mentioned the 82 championship, it was just CBS did, a few championship games Saturday and Sunday as well. I think actually none of them were championship. They had the Duke Kentucky game from 92, but the first one they were starting off with 82 Georgetown UNC, and
I've never watched that game in its entirety. So
I set my recorder to DVR it, and then I don't know what it was, 10 minutes in, President Trump comes on with the press conference update on coronavirus, which I'm not trying to diminish, but went through the entire rest of the game. And so
yeah, there was a lot of Thankfully, Adam Lucas on Twitter sent out a link to the YouTube so you can watch that whole game. So I think where I was able to watch the first half of it, and then right at the start of the second half, it was interrupted. But I went on YouTube, fast forwarded up to the start of the second half, and watched the rest of the game. So
yeah. Luckily, they are out there, and we can find them. And like you said, even games that aren't championship games. So for people that listen to this, watch this, if you are watching some games, tag us on Twitter. Let us know what you're watching, and
let us know what some of your favorite Carolina games are, whether they're ACC tournament, NCAA tournament, or even regular season. Might give us inspiration and motivation to go watch those games.
Yeah, and going forward from the podcast here, we're pretty much, we are in the off season now. We canceled March Madness, so we usually go once a month now. I know Blake has reached out already and wants to talk about kind of potential starting lineups for next year on a podcast. So I may try to do that yet in March here, but otherwise we're going to, unless we are just completely stuck in the house, maybe we'll have to just get in and just talk about random North Carolina stuff. But we're looking at kind of once a month here in the podcast through October. But obviously we'll keep you guys updated. And if you're subscribed wherever you are, make sure you subscribe so you can catch us in your stream, whether it's live when we just pop on YouTube and you get a notification, or in your Apple Podcast stream, or whatever it is. So before we do go, I did ask for questions, comments here on YouTube, and we got Hannibal here, who I've seen that name pop up before. Got some questions, or just some comments, I should say. I don't know, but we're going to run through them here. They said, so I guess maybe he hasn't watched this season. He said, "What's up? Missed you this season. I used to hate Garrison's game. Love him now," which obviously, we know the turnaround he had this year. And then I was talking about the year we went to the NIT. So he helped me out there with 2010. He said, "I hope I feel the same about Baycott next year because he was soft this year." And obviously Baycott's got a lot of motivation. His last press conference, wasn't a press conference, but interviews that have kind of gone out talking about how he's looking forward to next year already. He seems pretty motivated, and
he had a difficult season finishing, sometimes for point blank, finishing shots around the rim. I expect him to step up and get a lot of offseason work in and to develop his touch, because he showed that he has touch when at the free throw line. He started the season not so great, but finished the season well at the free throw line overall. But he needs to be able to, finish through contact, which is something that Garrison has really been able to develop in his game in his 3 seasons. So I think that we will see a much improved Armando Baycott next year, which is something that for the rest of the ACC foes to look out for.
Well, and like we said about Garrison too, we can't just go off stats, because he may not get as many minutes next year as he did this year just because of the incoming guys. So
that's why I look at field goal percentage, because maybe his field goal attempts are down, but the percentage goes up. That's what I'd love to see.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely got some offensive moves. So, and then again, talking about the NIT year, I ran through kind of our NIT, who we'd played and where and stuff. So he said we lost to Dayton and MSG. He was there in his hometown. So
remember that Dayton game?
I did not remember that. When I looked up, I was like, oh, we lost, which is obviously a little more relevant this year with how good Dayton was.
Close until the end, but it was one of those games where you just felt like Dayton kind of had it the whole time.
So was Archie Miller the coach?
Man, I do not remember that.
I feel like it was maybe before him, because I don't think he was at Dayton too long. But
yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah.
And then he finished off with, he misses his Tar Heels, can't wait till November. And hopefully we get a whole football season before we even get to basketball. Obviously, with North Carolina football trending up with the recruits that Mac is getting and stuff.
Let's hope that all of those Tar Heels are staying safe, all the athletes, all the students, and everybody's staying safe out there.
All right, and that's all the comments I got. I did, before you jumped on, I said I went live on Instagram too, which didn't work as well with you jumping in here, but that's okay. And I was just quickly scrolling through to see if we got any questions or comments there, and we don't. So I think that's about where we can end it.
Season we'll be more on top of it. We'll try and keep that post-game Instagram live going. We kind of fell off there this middle of the
season. It was hard this year with the games we'd go through. It's like you don't feel like going live after a buzzer beater.
Another brutal loss when you just wanted to just put your head under a pillow. Not to mention, I mean, you're in Tennessee, but here I'm in Virginia, and those 9 p.m. tip-offs, it's getting late by the time those games end up, and so I'm like pretty exhausted getting on there. Hard to be coherent.
Yeah, and nobody wanted to listen anyway when we're talking about the game that we just gave up a buzzer beater or whatever it was. So all right, I appreciate Gil you jumping on. It was good to finally podcast with you.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on
behind the scenes. So I hope everybody is staying safe, like we said, staying inside, and come talk with us about UNC hoops, and if we need to, we can jump on live, and we could even do where we try to bring people in here. We can get more than 2 people in here, so we could potentially bring people in and just talk about random North Carolina stuff. So if somebody is just so down in the dumps, I need somebody to talk to, we're here to reach out us on Twitter or wherever we're connected. And yeah, that's about all I got. Until next time, go Heels.
Go Heels.